The reason our household is struggling financially is because someone isn't employed, you know? While saying this, my mother-in-law glared at me sternly. Both my husband and my father-in-law tried to intervene and calm my mother-in-law down, but her anger only grew. It's because we have an extra person here that the house is struggling financially. Being a housewife is essentially the same as being unemployed. Do you understand? With those words, my mother-in-law blamed me. However, more than feeling sad or angry, I just felt tired of my mother-in-law. It's been a year since I started living with my in-laws, and I've been blamed like this by her many times before. My dedication to my family at home is something my mother-in-law just can't seem to accept. I believe that maintaining the household is an important role and is certainly not worthless. But the reality is that my mother-in-law does not see its value. It's incredibly frustrating that such misunderstandings occur, but I strongly feel that I must overcome this situation in my own way. One day, my mother-in-law was different from usual. Apparently, something upsetting happened outside, and because of that, she was even harsher towards me than usual. As time passed, my mother-in-law became more agitated and eventually said something unbelievable. "It's wrong that you're with my precious son. You're unemployed now, and you should live a more independent life. Get out now." My husband and father-in-law were shocked. They had not expected my mother-in-law to tell me to leave so directly and were at a loss for words. My father-in-law seemed like he wanted to say something, but I spoke up first. "Oh, of course, with pleasure," I replied with a smile as bright as the morning sun. My mother-in-law was taken aback by my unexpected response and exclaimed in surprise, "What?" The atmosphere was so comical, like a scene from a TV show. My husband and father-in-law were also surprised. Their faces were filled with the pure astonishment of children seeing a rare animal. While they were unsure how to react to my unexpected move, I went back to my room and began packing my bags for a new beginning. As if to mark the start of this new chapter, I took out the divorce papers. When it was time for my husband to sign the divorce papers, he hesitated slightly, and his hand shook a bit with the pen. "Mother, I'll take these divorce papers to the court." "Take care of yourself," I said as I prepared myself to step into a new future. As I did, my mother-in-law's laughter came from the back of the house, but my heart had already moved on from the past and was filled with hope for the future. "It won't go as you think," I muttered to myself as I began to envision my new life. "My name's Sherry." Even now at 30, my love for movies and dramas since childhood hasn't faded. I was passionate about following the stories on the screen back then, and narrating stories through visuals has become my passion. This passion led me to a film production school right after graduating from high school. The knowledge and skills I acquired there became a great asset in my career in the advertising industry, where I joined an advertising agency. Though busy, my days were filled with the joy of creativity. And during those days, through my work, I met Jim. He was 2 years older than me, and I was immediately drawn to his relaxed demeanor and generous heart. Sharing our love for cameras together was a special joy. On the common ground of video, we quickly built a close relationship. Our relationship naturally deepened over several years of dating, and eventually, a significant word from him reached me. "Sherry, I think I'll go back to my hometown and become an independent photographer." "Really? You've decided to become independent?" I had heard from Jim before that he eventually wanted to return to his hometown and become independent. "Yeah. So, would you come back to my hometown with me? I mean, would you marry me?" His inquiry revealed both his determination for the future and a hint of anxiety. "Of course, thank you." I accepted his offer with genuine joy. Since Jim's hometown is accessible by train from here, I will be quitting my job at my current company. Deciding to follow him, even at the cost of leaving my job, came with its share of loneliness and anxiety. But the overwhelming sense of anticipation and hope filled my heart to support the dreams of the person I love and to carve out a new future together. Our new story is about to begin. The time I spend with Jim is so precious to me, it's indescribable. Our marriage has led to daily appreciation of our joy together. And I became a full-time homemaker while Jim began to build a new career with his camera. He worked hard. We rented an apartment near his parents' home and saved money to build our own house in the future. Living modestly, our dreams slowly but surely took shape. However, a suggestion from my mother-in-law disturbed our peaceful daily life. "Sherry, Jem, it's wonderful that you two are saving diligently for the future. But if you live here with us, you could save even more," my mother-in-law said, her eyes gleaming like a child dreaming. Although we had a good relationship with my in-laws, this proposal swirled complex emotions within us. It might be financially beneficial indeed. But, recalling the struggles of a friend who lived with in-laws immediately after marriage and ended up divorcing, I felt uneasy. Jim, sensing my feelings, gently refused, saying, "Mom, I appreciate it, but we value our privacy too. We'd like to think more about living together." However, my mother-in-law's enthusiasm did not wane. "I think living together will make every day more fun. I dream every night of us enjoying meals together." "It's time to start living together," she repeatedly suggested. As time passed, her repeated suggestions swayed us. Eventually, we accepted her warm hope. The joy on my mother-in-law's face was as if a long-held dream had come true. Finally, my dream is becoming reality." She thanked us with sparkling eyes. Our new life, filled with such hopeful anticipation, was about to begin. "Wow, I'm really happy. Sherry, let's share the household chores together amicably." "Thank you, I look forward to it." Seeing my mother-in-law smile, I felt truly glad to have accepted living together. After agreeing to live together, my mother-in-law's calls became more frequent, conveying her eagerness to live together. "For you two, I've prepared the corner room on the second floor of the house. It's bright as it gets a lot of sunlight, and I think you'll find it comfortable. I've cleaned the room thoroughly and polished it, so please use it comfortably. I truly appreciate your thoughtfulness. I'm deeply grateful." As time passed, I experienced more of my mother-in-law's kind gestures, and the anxiety in my heart gradually eased. Still, a small doubt smoldered deep within me. It was the feeling that my mother-in-law's love for her son, Jim, was sometimes too intense. A mother's love for her son is natural, but sometimes her overprotectiveness perplexed me. "Sherry, what are you making for dinner tonight?" "Jem works hard every day, so make sure he eats lots of nutritious food. Not just meat, but a balanced diet. Support him well." "So, what's on the menu?" While I appreciated her detailed concern, I couldn't help but feel a slight discomfort. My mother-in-law also began to frequently say, "I can't wait to live with Jim soon." Her words seemed to anticipate living with Jim more than with the entire family. However, a mother's desire to cherish time with her son is understandable. I told myself not to worry excessively. Otherwise, there were no other concerns, so I focused on preparing for the move. And so, our life together began. Initially, sharing household chores with my mother-in-law led to harmonious days, but gradually her unexpected side began to show. One day, with Jim and my father-in-law at work, it was just my mother-in-law and me at home. As morning light streamed through the windows, what should have been a peaceful time suddenly changed. "Sherry, are you still doing laundry? Can't you do it quicker? Once the laundry is done, I'd like you to wash the dishes. I'm leaving the housework to you today. Since you're not working, you must have plenty of time, right? How enviable to have so much free time." My mother-in-law asked in a tone harsher than I'd ever heard. Surprised, yet trying to remain calm, I replied, "Mother, do you have plans to go out today?" However, my mother-in-law responded, "Yes, unlike you, I'm busy. When I was working, every day was very busy." Thinking back to those times still fills my chest. She spoke with pride about her past job. My mother-in-law indeed had a successful career at a major trading company until 2 years ago. She is now a retired housewife and supposed to have a lot of time at home. Yet, why does she look down on me as unemployed? I couldn't understand the reason and couldn't hide my confusion. "What are you spacing out for? Move your hands. Hurry up and finish hanging the laundry." "Yes, yes." Overwhelmed by my mother-in-law's forcefulness, I started doing the household chores as she commanded. My mother-in-law complained about every aspect of the housework, and she wasn't satisfied unless the cleaning was perfect. "This isn't good enough. It's not clean at all. Do it again." She watched with a critical eye. After harassing me to her satisfaction, my mother-in-law left the house with a designer bag in hand. Alone in the house, I was stunned. Gradually, it became a daily routine for my mother-in-law to naturally treat housework as my responsibility. She dressed in trendy clothes and bags, and always returned from her outings with new purchases. When Jim or my father-in-law were around, my mother-in-law acted like the perfect wife and mother straight out of a magazine. Meanwhile, I struggled internally with whether to tell Jim or my father-in-law about my mother-in-law's dual nature. Not wanting to cause them unnecessary worry, I eventually chose to remain silent. However, as time passed, even in gatherings with the family, my mother-in-law openly pushed household chores onto me. Even then, Jim always protected me and spoke up against my mother-in-law. "Mom, why do you always make Sherry do the chores?" We agreed to share them. My mother-in-law responded, "Don't be so mad. It's natural for Sherry to handle the chores since she spends time at home, as if it was the most natural thing in the world." Finally, my father-in-law showed his anger. "You aren't working right now either." My father-in-law is 3 years younger than my mother-in-law, making him 59 years old. He is still actively working, despite being close to retirement, and works at a publishing company. He is a person full of kindness and has always been warm to me. Moreover, when it's just the two of us, my mother-in-law often talks about her past glories and her career at a major trading company. She probably doesn't talk about it when the family is around because she doesn't want to hear, "You aren't working now, are you?" It seemed she was proud of her past and felt some superiority because I am a housewife. My mother-in-law enthusiastically repeated stories of her past. "Listen, right after graduating from that famous university, I worked at a top company and was really making a mark even as a newcomer. I was so relied upon, and the number of times I was awarded is countless," she said, and I replied, "That's truly wonderful." However, my response only emboldened her to say, "See, you wouldn't understand because you haven't lived a glamorous life like mine. You're perfectly suited for being unemployed because you don't have any special skills." She often looked down on me like that. Although these words irritated me inside, I felt consoled by the fact that my husband and father-in-law were on my side. While my mother-in-law was around, I quickly finished my chores and retreated to my room, reducing the time I spent with her as much as possible. I tried not to pay attention to her boastful stories, and sometimes, when it seemed like she would go on for a long time, I cleverly found excuses to escape back to my room. Recently, I've been quickly retreating to my room as soon as she starts, and even if she seems dissatisfied, I just keep calm. Then, one evening, almost a year after we started living together, my mother-in-law suddenly began talking discontentedly about a luxurious trip her friend, Mrs. Johnson, had. Today, Mrs. Johnson bragged to me. "Mrs. Johnson is your friend, right?" Jim asked. My mother-in-law nodded and began speaking bluntly. "The Johnsons went on a fancy trip. They had a private outdoor jacuzzi accessible directly from their room, and the food was exquisite." Listening to this exchange, I simply took the role of a listener. "Is that so?" "I'm envious," my father-in-law commented calmly. To this, my mother-in-law exploded. "Did you hear that?" She bragged about it to me. It felt like she said, "You guys couldn't afford that fancy inn," and it really hurt me. "Why do I have to feel this sad?" she complained. Jim gently said, "Mom, take a deep breath. There's no need to feel so burdened." But my mother-in-law wouldn't listen. "No, you don't understand my feelings. This is the first time I've felt so sad and frustrated." She became furious and suddenly turned her frustration towards me. "The reason our household is struggling financially is because someone isn't employed, you know?" She blamed me. Jim immediately retorted, "Mom, what are you talking about?" But my mother-in-law's anger did not subside. "There's a dead weight here. Don't you have anything to say? Do you realize being a housewife is the same as being unemployed?" She confronted me. Hearing those words, I couldn't hold back any longer. Angry that she, now unemployed herself, was treating me like an unemployed burden, I was at my limit. "You're not working now either, are you?" I counted. "What?" She seemed surprised by my response and then became even angrier. "It's wrong that you're with my precious son. You're unemployed now, and you should live a more independent life. Get out now," she yelled. Both my father-in-law and Jim tried to reason with her, but I asserted my position calmly yet firmly. "Yes, gladly," I responded cheerfully. At that moment, surprise spread across my mother-in-law's face, and she exclaimed, "What?" Jem and my father-in-law were also taken aback by my unexpected reply. Smiling inwardly at their reactions, I quickly stood up, cleared my dishes from the table, and took the first step towards my new life. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law taunted me. "Look, she really is leaving. Jem, you're lucky to get rid of a wife like that." But Jim got angry and scolded her. "Stop it, Mom." My father-in-law also supported me, saying, "You should apologize to Sherry," but my mother-in-law stubbornly refused to apologize. I quietly packed my belongings without anyone interrupting me. Jim watched me anxiously as I left the room. At the last moment, my mother-in-law still seemed to want to say something. "Hey, you, wash your dishes." "And ours too." I naturally ignored her, but I could hear Jim and my father-in-law scolding her throughout the house. The next morning, after I had finished packing, I told Jim something in my room. Then, Jim and I quietly signed the divorce papers. Mother, this is goodbye. I will submit the divorce papers, I said calmly. As I left my in-laws' home, I heard my mother-in-law's laughter behind me, but I was satisfied with my decision and left with a smile. My mother-in-law had no idea what was about to happen to her. It won't go as you think, I muttered to myself as I opened the door to my new life. Then, as I had declared, I submitted the divorce papers to the courthouse, and thus Jim and I were later on officially divorced. 6 months later, my mother-in-law unexpectedly called my mobile phone. As soon as I answered, she started talking excitedly. I finally got through. I've been trying to reach you for so long. Why haven't I been able to reach you lately? She demanded. Well, I had blocked your calls. We're strangers now, I replied calmly. To be honest, I had blocked her calls to cut off contact with her. I had just unblocked her shortly before. Call blocking? Anyway, listen. I can't find Jim. Where have you hidden my precious Jim? Are you involved in this? Even though you're divorced, do you still have feelings for Jim? She pressed vehemently. Hearing my mother-in-law's voice after a long time, she seemed as lively as ever. Could you please lower your voice a bit? It's hurting my ears. Be quiet. Where are you now? She continued to shout emotionally despite my caution. In stark contrast to her, I informed her calmly. I've built a house and just finished moving in. What? Her momentum was halted suddenly, and she quieted down, but then she gathered her thoughts and started yelling again. What are you talking about? How can you, an unemployed person, have the money for that? A house. Sure, you said something about saving for a home, but there's no way a single, unemployed person like you could afford to build a house. I earn $160,000 a year. The fact I revealed made my mother-in-law gasp in surprise, even over the phone. Actually, I've started streaming videos. I'm a YouTuber now, promoting beauty products and trendy items. I've become popular, and my annual income has reached $160,000, I explained calmly. YouTuber, you? And you earn that much? My mother-in-law could not hide her astonishment. Yes, that's why I stayed in my room. I was focusing on making videos, I added. Of course, it was also to distance myself from my mother-in-law, but since resigning and marrying Jim, I had been deeply engaged in video production, utilizing my editing skills. It had been quite successful from the start, but I never thought I'd earn this much. So, that's it? You were always holed up in your room making videos. Well, yes, for making videos. While escaping from my mother-in-law's bragging was a bigger reason for staying in my room, indeed, I wanted to find as much time as possible for video production. What? That's sly of you. If you were earning so much, you should have told me sooner. I feel terrible. I thought you were just an unemployed nobody and said such awful things. If you're earning that much, it's a different story. You're so mean for keeping such a big secret, Sherry. The moment she learned about my income, my mother-in-law's tone changed as if she had flipped a switch. If you're earning that much, you should give me something too. A fancy hotel trip would be nice, she said. I took a deep breath and replied gently, unfortunately, I earned that money. It's mine. Please use the money you earned at your own prestigious trading company. What? To think you earn so much and still be so stingy. My mother-in-law expressed her dissatisfaction, but I was no longer moved by her words. It surprised me a little. The person who always used harsh words on me was then demanding things so casually. But somewhere in my mind, I thought, that's typical of her, I suppose. To be honest, I have no intention of giving you a single penny. Also, there's the matter with Jem. We are living together now. Wait, what? I thought you two were divorced. Her voice was filled with surprise. Yes, we did separate once, but we remarried. Jem decided to come live in my house this time. We had made that arrangement originally. Really? He moved into your house. The day we left my mother-in-law's house, Jem and I seriously discussed our future. We planned to divorce once, but then Jim would come to my house and we'd start anew. Jim felt very relieved knowing that I wanted to be with him. I'll be staying at my parents' house for a while. I've already talked to them, so Jim, come over when you're ready. Okay, I understand. I really feel sorry for Mom. Jim looked a bit sad, but, along with my father-in-law, always protected me. So, I truly appreciated both of them. Then, Jim lied to my mother-in-law about having a long-term job and came to my house with just the necessities. My mother-in-law was unable to accept what I had told her. Every time I called Jim, it doesn't connect. Could it be, is Jim avoiding my calls too? Why? My mother-in-law was puzzled. Yes, that's correct. Jem decided to distance himself from you. I also used to avoid your calls, but I've unblocked them since we've settled down after moving. I thought you might be worried about Jim, so I wanted to let you know about him. And oh, sorry, but I can't give you our address. We've decided to stay together, so there's no need for you to look for him, I explained in a slightly softer tone. My mother-in-law seemed shocked and stuttered. What? That's... She then suddenly shouted, "It's all lies. You must have done something." A bit bewildered in front of such a mother-in-law, Jim then appeared and calmly took the phone. "Mom, it's me," he started with a gentle voice. "Jim, see, it must be a misunderstanding, right? Did Sherry do something to you? I'll come pick you up, just tell me where you are." My mother-in-law pleaded desperately, but Jim quietly responded, "No, what Sherry is saying is true. We've decided to cut ties with you, Mom. I cannot forgive you for how you had treated her. From now on, you're a stranger to us. I'm sorry. Goodbye." The phone was then handed back to me. "Mother, do you understand Jim's feelings now?" She stammered. "Well, I'm going to hang up now then," I said, and just as I was about to end the call, my mother-in-law suddenly exclaimed, "Wait. I'll accept that we're cutting ties for now. But I still have something to say. Please reconsider the money just one more time." I was utterly baffled that she was still talking about money at this point. "I'm really sorry, my mother-in-law, but we can't give you any more money. It's impossible, especially the fancy hotel reservation you mentioned. So please understand that," I explained as kindly yet clearly as possible. "No, you see, here's the situation. I was enjoying a little shopping with your father's credit card, and it got out, and now I'm limited to a monthly allowance of $300. It disappears in no time." "Oh, really? So that's what happened, huh?" He did recently mention being worried about the decrease in savings. He saw you coming home from high-end brand shops, so we had a little chat about it. Perhaps that was it. Jem and I always kept in touch with his father, so we knew his concerns well. My father-in-law is truly kind and even helped us with the expenses to start our new life because his wife caused trouble. And lately, he's been worried about the rapidly decreasing savings, so I provided a bit of information about my mother-in-law's shopping habits. Despite not working, she frequently came home with shopping bags from branded stores, which seemed odd to me. "Did you snitch on me to him? Why? He's really angry, has put me on a meager allowance, and insists I record everything. If I don't comply, he's threatening to divorce me. Mother, overspending isn't good, especially without an income. You should appreciate even getting an allowance of $300 a month. You should be grateful to your husband and reflect on your actions," I responded, albeit exasperated, wanting to hear what excuses she might have. I used to be able to buy whatever I wanted, but suddenly having to save after retiring is confusing. When I go shopping with friends, I have to pick something decent, or it looks bad compared to them. "Do you really need to put on such appearances?" I asked. To that, my mother-in-law responded as if it were the most natural thing. "It's not just for show. I used to work at an elite general trading company. That's why branded products suit me. I don't have anything else to discuss with you, Mother. I'm hanging up now." Listening to her incomprehensible claim gave me a headache. With that, I ended the call. As I hung up, I thought I heard my mother-in-law's frustrated voice. Later, my father-in-law told me that my mother-in-law was feeling quite stressed about the new financial arrangement. My mother-in-law had secretly been using my father-in-law's credit card to make expensive purchases. When he found out, he brought up divorce. My mother-in-law cried and begged for forgiveness, but my father-in-law was resolute and did not accept her pleas. Eventually, my mother-in-law had to leave the house and start living in a much simpler apartment. From a life of luxury, she began looking for part-time jobs. However, working under a much younger supervisor became a significant challenge for her, who has high self-esteem. I received several calls from her asking for financial help and complaining about her job. "Sherry, listen. This young supervisor keeps criticizing what I do. Don't do unnecessary things," he says. "How cheeky is that? It's obvious if you just look at my experience. I'd rather you don't call me anymore." But my mother-in-law, endeared, continued, "Come on, help me out a little. Just lend me some money, a small amount will do. You can afford it, right? No, please stop this." When I refused, my mother-in-law started crying dramatically. "That's terrible, Sherry. I can't stand this life anymore. I was supposed to enjoy a fun retirement. Why has it turned out like this? That's your own fault. Until you understand that, nothing will change. Please don't call me anymore. I hung up and blocked my mother-in-law's number again. I don't know what happened to my mother-in-law afterward, but I hope she reflects on her past and changes her ways a little. Meanwhile, my video streaming has been successfully profitable, and together with Jim, we are getting a new business off the ground and securing a stable income. With our savings so far, we are relatively comfortable financially. Also, a new life has begun within me. Our upcoming child is already being blessed by my father-in-law and our families. Jem and I are enjoying our days, preparing to welcome our new family member.